So you know how there's just too many books and not enough time to read them all, and I'm sure if you're anything like me, your TBR has more books on it than you could possibly ever read this year, in fact probably for the next couple of years. And yet still we keep adding more books to our TBR because authors keep releasing new books, which is absolutely fantastic. But it also puts me into a bit of a state of anxiety. I've always got a little bit of FOMO that I'm missing out, that I'm not reading fast enough, that I need to get through these books. But also I want to make sure that I enjoy the books I read, and I don't want to race through them unnecessarily just to get to the next book. So it's always a balancing act, and if you feel anything like me, then you, like I say, you feel like you may be missing out on something, and in a constant state of anxiety about which books to read next and how many books that you've got on your radar but have not got to. Well, today I'm not just talking about books, but I'm talking about authors. So here are my confessions of a bookaholic. So these are my confessions of a bookaholic. These are not just books that are on my TBR that I haven't got around to. These are authors that I feel like other people talk about. I know if I read them, they're going to be absolutely fantastic, but I just haven't got around to them yet. And they are authors that I think I absolutely should have read by now. And so this is why these are my confessions of a bookaholic, because I feel like I need to apologise and atone for not reading these authors just yet. And what inspired this video is because Pam Godwin was one such author who'd been on my list of an author that I wanted to read for absolutely ages. I'd heard such good things about her books. I was absolutely convinced that once I read her books I would absolutely love them and devour them. The types of books she writes are right up my street. Lots of dark romance, really well written, really good plot and character development. I just hadn't got around to it, and obviously the number one book that everyone was talking about that I really wanted to get to was Sea of Ruin, and that is still on my TBR. Hopefully I will read it in the next couple of weeks. If I don't, that's okay too. But last week I was really in the mood for a dark romance, and I decided to pick up Deliver by Pam Godwin, which absolutely blew me away. I absolutely loved it, rated it 5 stars. And this is what triggered this video, because I realised that I've been sleeping on quite a lot of authors who I think when I read their books I'll also rate their books 5 stars as well, and so I feel like I need to put their names out there, and hopefully this will encourage me to pick up some of their books. So let's dive straight in. The first author that I haven't yet read any of her books is Penelope Douglas, and she's got a couple of books that people always talk about that are absolutely on my wish list on Amazon and on my TBR. The first one is Birthday Girl. Now I see people posting this on Bookstagram all the time, particularly around their birthday, but I have absolutely no idea what this book is about, if I'm honest, but it looks great and it's got some really good reviews. So that is definitely up there. The next one is, of course, Credence. Now Credence is very much thought of as a taboo novel. There's an element of incest in this one, because I understand that a young girl goes to live with her kind of step uncle and cousins, and she has a relationship with each one of them. Now I don't think it's specifically a why choose book. She does end up with one of these men, but I find it really, really intriguing. It's right up my alley. I love a taboo romance. If it is, you know, controversial in any way, it makes me want to read it even more, and so Credence is definitely high on my priority list when I get the urge to read that one. And then the other sort of series of books that I've got my eye on is the Devil's Night series that starts with the first book, which is Corrupt. Again, I've seen loads of people rate this really highly. People really love this series, and I think the main male characters in that series seem right up my alley. Again, very dark, morally grey kind of heroes, and that's absolutely the type of book that I want to read. So Penelope Douglas is up there for sure. Then the next one is Fiona Cole. Now Fiona Cole has got a couple of series that I'm interested in. The first one is her Voyeur series, which I believe revolves around a sex club and different couples who frequent the club and have different kinks and that sort of thing, which again is right in my alley. Love that sort of stuff. And then another series that looks slightly more contemporary, which is Blame It on the Alcohol series. So I think she's brought out books like Blame It on the Vodka, Blame It on the Champagne and that sort of thing. And also I've seen really good reviews for that, and the front covers really intrigue me. And then an author that I feel has just been talked about non-stop through this year, and that's Liz TomForde, and she's got 2 books, Mile High and The Right Move. Now I know The Right Move is everyone's favourite. The main male character in that book is a book boyfriend for sure, but I am a bit of a completionist, so I normally like to read a series in order. And so I need to read The Mile High first. Now what's kind of putting me off from reading these is just the lengths of the books. They look really, really long and chunky books. And sometimes because of that FOMO I talked about at the start, I like to read shorter books because I feel a more sense of accomplishment when I'm reading more, because obviously the longer the length is, it takes me longer to get through a book, and therefore I'm not reading as many in terms of quantity. However, I have shifted my focus on that this year and focusing more on quality, and so definitely Liz TomForde is still a high priority, and I'm hoping to get to that book very soon. Then we have Nikki Sloane, and I am very intrigued by her Nashville Neighbourhood series. This is kind of like a series of books that are all set in the same neighbourhood, not necessarily directly interconnecting, but definitely from couples who live in the same area. And so that is very, very intriguing. I think she has, from the reviews and everything, she does a good level of steam and spice in her books, which I'm always keen to read those types of novels. And then the other one, which was brought to my attention first, and which I'm really interested in because again I think it's right up my alley, is the Filthy Rich American series, of which the first book is The Initiation, and people say that that is a wild and crazy ride and lots of twists and turns and quite interesting. So something that is definitely something I'm very intrigued to read and hope to get to at some point in the future. Then the next one is Catharina Maura. Now she has done the Windsor series. The first 2 books I think are The Wrong Bride and The Temporary Wife, and these are both either kind of arranged marriages or fake dating arrangements, that sort of thing, and I really, really like forced marriages, arranged marriages, fake dating, all of that good stuff, where couples are in close proximity together and they start off not really knowing each other or liking each other that much, and then ultimately you know, because of their close proximity, they end up together. And also Catharina Maura was an author that was at Rare 23 London. She was a ticketed author, so I didn't get a chance to see her, but I know that she's really, really popular. Loads of people really like her writing, and I am intrigued to see if it's, you know, she's the sort of author that I want to read. Then we have Melanie Harlow, and particularly her Cloverleaf Farms series and the Next Gen series. I've heard great things around both Tempt and Tease, which I absolutely want to get to soon. Then flicking back to another dark romance author, Amo Jones. So Amo Jones I've heard a lot about. I know she writes very dark and twisty sort of romances, lots of different ones, and I think she is quite polarising as well. So even the people that really like Amo Jones's writing don't necessarily like all of her books, and I know people who have read her either love her or hate her. I think she's probably going to be right up my alley because I do like a dark, twisty romance, especially if we get a happy ever after at the end. And in particular, I think if I start with Amo Jones, I'll probably start with Sicko, which I know a lot of people say is a good one to start with. So when the mood strikes me, I will definitely pick up and read that book. Something slightly different, a couple of paranormal romance writers, or at least in terms of the series that I've got my eye on. The first one is Amara Ray, and she has got the Immortal Coven series, which starts with a book called Lifeblood. And the 6th in this series, unfortunately though, the 6th book was pulled from Amazon and has never reappeared. And I know this author as well has also kind of like moved off the radar a little bit and isn't currently on social media or anything like that, so we're not exactly sure what's happening with that 6th book. But nevertheless, the rest of the series sounds absolutely amazing. It's a paranormal romance with witches and werewolves and demons and all of that good stuff, and I absolutely love that type of romance, and it sounds very interesting. So I really do hope that her 6th book is released soon, but in the meantime I've obviously got 5 to make my way through, so it'll probably take me a while, but the next time the mood strikes me to read a paranormal romance, I'll probably dive straight into Lifeblood. Then the next author, I'm probably gonna butcher her surname completely, but it's Lana Perchik, and she has written a series called the Fae Guardian series, and it starts with The Longing of Lone Wolves. This was an author I did actually meet at Rare 23 London. I got her signature, and her books are absolutely beautiful. I think as well as being an author, I think she's an artist as well, and they're so well illustrated, and the front covers are absolutely gorgeous. And so I'm very intrigued to dive into those. I believe it's some sort of like time travel thing going on, where there are some human women who are somehow in ice, and time passes, the ice thaws, and they wake up, and they wake up into this world of sort of paranormal like creatures with fae, and again I think there's like vampires and werewolves and all that good stuff. So then another author which spans both paranormal kind of romances, which look absolutely fantastic, but also she does mafia romances as well, which again is absolutely my jam, and that is Presley Cole. So Presley Cole has done the Immortal After Dark series. That looks absolutely fantastic. I've heard really good things about that. The thing is, there's a lot of books in that series. It would be a massive investment to get stuck in, and I would have to start from book 1. However, I think it would be right up my alley. I think once I start, I would probably devour that series and absolutely love it. So I'm kind of like put off just by the sheer volume of books I would need to get through. But I know that once I start, I will absolutely love them. So I really do want to push myself into reading those soon. But I'll probably start with her Mafia series, which is the Game Makers series. And the first book in that one is called The Professional. Again, I've had this one on my TBR for absolutely ages when I first started getting into Mafia romance. And I will absolutely get around to that one. And it's probably where, like I say, I'll start with Presley Cole, check out her Mafia series, and then kind of like segue then into the Immortals After Dark series. Sticking on the Mafia theme, a UK author that I've really wanted to read for a long time, and one book in particular, that's Jodie Ellen Malpas and the book The Brit. Now I'm drawn to this one, I think, because not only is the front cover of this book absolutely gorgeous, the cover model is right up my alley, but also it's called The Brit, which obviously does pique my interest since I am in the UK, and there's kind of like a bit of a Union Jack flag going on in the background as well. So I'm very drawn to that front cover of that book. It is a mafia romance. He does seem to be a very dark, morally grey hero, so it's right up my alley, and I just haven't got around to it yet. And then the final author that I want to talk about today, I mean there's still loads more, but the final author that I think is kind of like one of those sorts of authors that it's like I cannot believe I've not read any books from this person yet, based on my kind of like my preferences and my reading preferences, is Kay Webster. Now Kay Webster is a very prolific writer. She's written a lot of books. When you go through a backlist, there's hundreds of them, but she's obviously caught my attention specifically for the wild and free kind of duet or books which were banned by Amazon because they are extremely taboo. And of course, as soon as I hear the word banned and taboo, I'm like, yes, please sign me up. So they have been on my radar for a long time. So there you have it. That's actually a really quick video for me, mainly because I haven't read any of these books or any of these authors, so I can't deep dive into the review and how I feel about them, but I know that these are very highly acclaimed authors. People give their books really good reviews. A lot of the books are right up my alley in terms of what they cover and their content and the genre and everything, so I'm very, very keen to get stuck in, and like I said, they all are on my TBR. I will absolutely get to them eventually when the mood strikes me, and when I do, you'll be sure to hear from me about how I felt, how I got on with them, and give you my full thoughts on what I read. So I just want to say, if you got this far, thank you so much for watching and sticking with me this far. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to put a comment in the comment box below if you've read any of these authors, which books I should start with in their catalogue, and remember, if you want to see more content from me, to subscribe to the channel. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye. possibly fated mates, and yeah. And she has written a series called The Longing. Then of course we have Nikki Sloane. I don't say of course, don't know. There's an element of incestuousness in this one. So let's dive straight in. The first author that I have not yet read a book by this author is that's not right, is it? So let's dive straight in. So the first author that I have not read any books from is Penelope. This is not the first time I've recorded this video. Hopefully the smoothing quality of the video will make it better, but I don't really know, to be honest.